Hi, everyone. Welcome to the MANRS community meeting. I think it's number 14. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. And we have a pretty packed agenda today. So those are the points we would like to talk to you about and discuss. We'll start with MANRS 2023 update. Then you heard the news about the transition of MANRS Secretariat. We'll talk about this. And then the floor will be taken by Leslie from Global Cyber Alliance, and she will talk about future of MANRS. Would make sense to make short introductions, just a quick round of people who are in the room, so we at least know each other. I'm Andrei Rybachevsky, Internet Society, been with MANRS from the beginning. Let's just go, please, starting with Pablo.
Pablo Aguilar, State Barcelona, Associate Director of the Global Cyber Alliance, speaker of the
Global Cyber Alliance,
Alejandro Fernández, Global Cyber Alliance also, Paulo Guipato, and with the European Installation Department of Robotics.
Marco Dietrich from Milano. I work for C-Web cloud provider and location provider in Italy, and then at MINAP, the Alternative Internet Exchange of Milan. I've been an early adopter of that. Also, the end developer working on that.
Hello, I'm Marco from the Internet Society, and I complete the infrastructure project, and I started as the manager responsible for some time on.
50 years of
Visual others from its exchange
Well, thank you for coming. And Robbie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Robbie Mitchell, work for MANRS team at ISOC. I work in communications and outreach.
Right. Well, thank you for coming. I would like to welcome our remote participants as well. So let's go with the MANRS 2023 updates. So the MANRS community, that's the growth of the MANRS community. We're over 1,000 members strong. They're split in 4 programs. As you know, the largest program is, of course, the Network Operators program, but also the IXP program grows very well, and followed by CDN and vendors program, which didn't grow that much, but that's not that many vendors, I guess. MANRS is not just participants, right? MANRS is supported in different ways by what we call partners. And this is a list of partners, and I'd like to have this opportunity to thank all of them for their support in, training, promotion, other types of resourcing of this initiative. Let me pause a little bit here, and I just wanted to sort of bring to your attention what makes MANRS sustainable. I think sustainability is very important. We want this to be a long-lasting effort. And well, this is not exclusive list, but at least those 3 or 4 pillars that I think very important for sustainability, which are self-governance, accountability of the MANRS participants, active community, and financial support and value proposition. So I will not structure the presentation in those specific pockets, but I will go through the presentation, please think of this through the lens of those 4 pillars. So speaking of self-governance, we have a steering committee, and I'm very glad to see Nick, who is one of the members of the steering committee, newly re-elected. We had elections, as you know, in October. 3 seats were for election. 2 existing steering committee members were elected, Arturo and Nick, and we have a new steering committee member, Nicholas, from LACNIC. Improvements to the measurement framework. This is something that is linked closely to accountability that I mentioned. So as you know, we for a long time were discussing the way how to publish the MANRS readiness scores on the website, being available to the general public, so people can see and compare networks, how they perform as far as MANRS is concerned. And we already start publishing the scores for actions 2, 3, and 4 in Network Operators Program. Unfortunately, we couldn't do this for action 1, which probably one of the most important ones, because the data in our measurement framework was not up to scratch, and we didn't want to implicate people in things that they didn't do, really. So we wanted to have a high level of confidence that the data we are collecting is really reflecting the reality. So we did some changes in the measurement system. It's not deployed. We'll send a separate email to the community, so there will be time to review and provide any feedback. But I'm using this opportunity to bring this up to your attention and maybe have some discussion. So we have different metrics related to route leaks. And route leaks, we're using BGP stream data. So there are 2 problems with that. Route leaks are difficult to detect because it's a policy violation, and without really knowing the policy, it's very difficult to reduce false positives significantly. And secondly, BGP stream is lacking support. So what we decide to do, we keep those metrics in your reports. You can still look at this and how you perform as far as route leaks are concerned, but they will not be calculated in MANRS readiness score. The M2 and M2C, which is route misoriginations or propagation of route misorigination from your direct customer, we switched to a new data source, as you know, to GRIP, which is a service provided by Georgia Tech. But still, we experience high level of false positives. So we introduced extra filtering of the GRIP data, basically comparing this to the IRR and RPKI system. So if there is an object in the RPKI or IRR, we will adjust the filtering accordingly. We did the statistics. It showed very good results. I think we did a random selection. There were no false positives detected. So we assume that will be probably 95% confidence that incidents that were reported in this metrics are really incidents. There is one problem with the measurement framework, but that's not about the GRIP, it's how we manage. The thing is, we're just looking for adjacencies, so we do not distinguish between customer relationship and peer relationship. And of course, peer relationship is outside the scope of MANRS. We are thinking of introducing maybe peer lock light, at least to filter out obvious cases when, for instance, your adjacency is tier 1 provider who cannot be your customer in any case. So those cases we observed as false positives, and probably will look into this and filter this out. But again, your feedback is very much welcome in this respect. So that's the data, that's the test we ran, and that's how much reduction we observed here. The slides will be available. You will be able to look into this. Last community meeting at RIPE in Rotterdam, we discussed the bogons. There were suggestions that maybe bogons could be filtered by IS0, by marking them where 0. And in fact, 2 RIRs are doing this. That's LACNIC and that's APNIC. So for them, we're just using TEL 0. For the rest, we improved filtering of bogons. We made this pretty well aligned with full bogons. You can see from Team Kumri. So you have the tools, and we have much less of false positives as far as bogons are concerned. All right. So that's the picture. that's on the left side, you can see incidents reported as bogons before we apply the filtering. And you can see on the right side, the same time period by filtering applied, what we suggested. So you can see a significant reduction, meaning that there are much less false positives as far as bogons are concerned. We're not asking for too much from the operators. So that all makes us almost ready to get and start publishing MANRS a readiness score for Action 1, and basically for network operator program. That would mean that all readiness scores are published on the main manrs.org website. So when you go to a table, you will not see ticks anymore. You will see real scores, and they will be marked in either you are lagging, either you are aspiring, or either you are ready. So why are we doing this? We discussed that, but just a quick recap. Especially from the outside, well, you who joined MANRS, you know that you passed the test, and we had some discussion with the auditors. It's not periodic though, right? We only do this when you submit an application and do not really monitor from the auditing perspective anymore. But from the outside, it also looked like, oh, it's self-declared conformance, right? You put ticks on the table and you call yourself a MANRS participant. So MANRS readiness score publication of those things, it will improve. It improves already credibility of the effort, but also improves on the peer pressure, because you don't want negative publicity as well. You want positive publicity, and therefore you would like improve, and you would like to appear on the table as ready, not as aspiring or lagging. So as I said, as of July 2023, you probably know that your scores for Action 2, 3, 4 are published on the MANRS website. So we got some feedback, but it doesn't seem to be a problem for most of you. So that's the state of conformance in the RIPE region. As far as Action 1 is concerned, we are doing quite well in the RIPE region. Only 2% and 6% of all members in the RIPE region are aspiring, the rest are ready. Coordination, full conformance, in brackets, I put the global numbers. Global validation, again, very good numbers. And RPKI, which is not mandatory, which is a nice to have thing, is a bit lagging, but also not something really awful. Well, 10% non-conformance, 17%. Almost 20% are aspiring. But as I said, RPKI is not mandatory action, so that's not really non-compliance. So when we publish these scores, what we want to introduce is a sort of an appeal process, because still we can't guarantee there will be no false positives. And of course, no one wants to be blamed for something they didn't commit. Right. So if there is a false positive, or you believe that's a false positive, that should be an appeal process that allows you to clear this incident. And we already have this facility in place. As you know, every month, network operators get a report where they shown how many, what are their MANRS readiness scores and how many incidents were reported. There is also in the observatory facility allowing you to provide feedback about every incident that is reported there. So this audit appeal process will just extend this facility. So when you mark your incidents with this feedback facility as false positives, that will be reviewed by the auditor, and the auditor can either reject this if they feel that's not a false positive, or clear this. And in this case, those incidents will be deleted from your scores, will be deleted from your reports, and will be marked as false positives and therefore not calculated. This is a rough timeline. We publish the scores for the months that has passed, right? So during the months, you can look at your incidents, you can report false positives. You're also given a week of grace period after sort of report is being compiled, where you can sort of, clean this up and report the rest. The auditor will review this stuff, and on the 8th of the next month, we'll publish the scores for the previous month. That is the timeline. All right, well, let me pause here and see if there are any questions to that part. No? Okay, good. Now, mentors and ambassadors, well, not much to say. You just probably listen to some of the reports from mentors and ambassadors. Mentors are well-respected professionals in our industry, and ambassadors are emerging leaders, which are selected. I believe steering committee plays a role in the selection process. And the program runs for 6 months. And basically activities are broken down into 3 main areas. One is training, one is research, and one is policy. So you saw some of the stuff. If you're more interested in this, the symposium will be recorded, will be available on the MANRS website. So I think so far, the Mentors and Ambassadors program, it brought great awareness of MANRS in different regions, sort of improved scalability of this effort as well. Now, MANRS is not just compliance, right? We have activities in those 3 areas, such as research, training, and policy, and some of this is carried out with the help of mentors and ambassadors. But some of this is also done by the MANRS team and MANRS participants. So training is very important, capacity building. As you know, they're moderated courses, and the courses you can run at your own pace as well. They're also hands-on workshops. They are available both directly or through the mentors and ambassadors program. There is also a virtual training lab that we've developed and quite recently updated, so it's also available if you're interested in maybe creating a workshop. So this lab is available to conduct such a workshop. And of course, we have implementation guides. We have implementation guide for MANRS NetOps program. We have implementation guide for MANRS IXP program. I think it needs periodic review. I think some of the review is being scheduled, but we just need to find resources also in the community to have a proper review and update those guides. Now, the good thing, they are now published through GitHub, so updating those guides and contributions to those guides is easier. You just need to create a pull request, and we can integrate your feedback into those guides. So in MANRS research, again, we count on ambassadors and mentors. Those are research topics that were happening in 2023. Longitudinal study on serial hijackers, looking at ASPA adoption, measurement survey on source address validation, and benchmarking of tools. We're also looking at or working on tools and data improvements. So data improvement, I already mentioned. A lot of those filters came from our research activities. We also developed and deployed some of the tools, such as ROAST. It's available online now. It allows you to look at the RPKI for different network operators in great level of detail. We also have a raw history API. I think it's not yet available publicly, but it's used as an internal tool. It allows you to go back in history and look at the status of ROAs in time. And we also developed a MANRS Plus tool. I'll talk about MANRS Plus in a second, but basically this is a tool that allows an enterprise to assess their level of supply chain by basically looking at who are their connectivity providers and what is their MANRS readiness score, whether it's good or bad. Policy engagement, I think policy, it probably becomes even more important. We know that in the United States, FCC is very interested in routing security. Routing security, among other things, is one of the pillars of their national cybersecurity strategy. There were a series, well, at least 2 workshops conducted this year where MANRS was showcased as the way how industry should self-regulate itself and address the challenges of routing security. So we continue to advocate for those approaches and for better routing security, and find ways how governments can exercise sort of self-regulation from, for instance, from procurement practices or from providing some incentives. Okay, MANRS Plus. Now, MANRS is not a best current practice, as you know. It's a minimum baseline requirement, right? Things that is, well, not a very high threshold that only few can join, but still an important step that can significantly improve routing security globally. But we also would like to, and I hope I reflect sort of the feeling of this community, we would like to improve and make those requirements even better. We want operators to improve, to implement more stronger security controls. Now they need to get something in back, right? So the value proposition of MANRS should increase proportionally if we're asking more from network operators. So MANRS Plus is about two things. One thing is to building in a stronger business case for MANRS, looking specifically at customer-provider relationship and specifically enterprises. But also another thing is to generate a demand for routing security from industries which are not sort of common networking or internet industries. Think of healthcare, think of finance. So how to engage them, how to make them aware of routing security challenges and sort of raise the priority of those issues in their security portfolio. So MANRS Plus, that's about this. There is a working group that is very close to completion. So we will release a MANRS controls document, MANRS Plus control document, which is quite similar to MANRS. It basically sort of very congruent to MANRS actions. The requirements are stronger, but also requirements for audit is stronger. It implies the measurements and check of the conformance will be done periodically, not just one-off. It also assumes higher level of cooperation between audited networks, such as setting up a peering session or maybe doing interviews or showing some of the documentation. And by this, we sort of kill two birds with one stone. First, we create another sort of career path for network operators. We show them how you can do even better. That's one thing. And the second thing, we engage this kind of edge. And as you know, 84% of all ISNs are edge networks. They're stub networks. So if we engage them, that's how we can also scale MANRS much better and improve routing security globally. Active community. Now, active community is very important, right? An active community is not just for over 1,000 participants that sign up, but people that not only sign up, not only keeping their networks in place, but also actively participating in MANRS, improving MANRS, suggesting MANRS, and doing other stuff. So participate, it's not just join and forget about this stuff. It's also join and participate in this community. That could be sharing your knowledge, working or participating in one of the working groups we're organizing or helping organize a working group. So this activity need to happen there. Okay, let me pause here because that's another topic. So that's 2023 looking sort of retrospectively. And now we'll be talking about the transition. Are there any questions in the chat room? No? Okay. All right. So secretariat transition. So you heard the news, and the news is that Internet Society and Global Cyber Alliance, they entered into partnership agreement, and under this partnership agreement, the GCA will assume day-to-day operations of the secretariat and running of the MANRS Observatory and other tools. And Internet Society will continue to provide financial support, training, and continue efforts in advocacy. From the community point of view, things shouldn't change. At least that's the idea, right? If they change them, we did something wrong. So community is intact, including the steering committee, support for the steering committee, community activities, support for community activities. What's also very important that the vision and the spirit of this initiative remains the same, right? So it's something that is happening under the hood, not something that will be seen by the community. So focus on continuity in short and midterm. And then, of course, we need to listen to the community carefully and pave the road for the future. So at this point, I would like to stop my presentation and give a floor to Leslie, and she will maybe add a few words about the transition, what's happening now, and present the outlook.
And I'll make it all up
Right.
as I go along.
Let me show you. Okay.
PDF, we need to switch which app. Sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes, please.
Right, so I think I'm gonna stand mostly. Yes, as Andre said, if we're successful in this endeavor, there shouldn't be a whole lot of change for 2024. That's certainly our going in assumption, is that we will be endeavoring to pick up pieces from the Internet Society and make it as smooth as possible. That said, I'm sure there will be some surprises and hiccups along the way, so we ask for your patience and help in that regard. Also, as we go along, we will be wanting to hear more from you about your thoughts on, what is working, what things might we consider as adjustments going forward, as we sort of continue to grow and move beyond 2024. We did undertake this project not as a 2024 project, but as a long-term project. So this is just the beginning. So what I did want to spend some time on today was talking a little bit about the Global Cyber Alliance, which I'm sure many of you hadn't heard of before the news, and say a little bit more about why we're enthusiastic about partnering with the Internet Society on this particular project, and how we think, it's a natural fit for the work that we're doing, and that will help us extend the MANRS support and project going forward. Yeah, just generally, our actual mission is to enable a secure and trustworthy internet, at least in my part of the organization. I should, I suppose, pause. If you're going to meet the Global Cyber Alliance, you should actually meet the Global Cyber Alliance. It's an 8-year-old organization that was founded by the City of London Police, the District Attorney of New York, and CIS in the US, as a not-for-profit focused on addressing cybersecurity challenges. It had 5 years of seed funding from asset forfeiture money, which is an interesting way to start your life. 5 years of seed funding from those organizations, and we have been operating independently for the last 3.5 years. So the work is sort of organized into 2 spaces. There's the Capacity and Resilience Program run by my colleague Brian Cute that focuses on end user needs and how to help address things like good common cyber hygiene practices for end users and small businesses. My side of the house is the Internet Integrity Program, and pretty much everything else that you're going to see in this presentation is about the Internet Integrity Program. Well, gosh, I could have put the slides and that would have been more obvious. Yeah, I think a couple other things I would mention. GCA was actually the organization that created the service that is now operated independently as the Quad 9 Protective DNS service. So that's a little bit of our background. We were also very active in promoting DMARC uptake for improving email security, and that was one of our older projects. And now in the Internet Integrity Program, we are primarily focused on AID. What did we decide we were going to call AID when we rebranded it?
Actual internet data.
Yes, it formerly known as the Automated IoT Defense Ecosystem, but since it's not automated, it's not a defense ecosystem, and we're beginning to suspect it's not just IoT, we thought maybe we should rebrand. So actual internet data ecosystem is a leading contender, focused on it's a global honey farm that collects data from across with 200 sensors spread across the globe. Initially deployed as IoT-like sensors, but increasingly we recognize that everything that is hitting our honey farm is hitting every open IPv4 port on the internet. So it's really a collection of this sort of background radiation noise. Domain trust focused on domain abuse, MANRS, and we're starting to work into some OSS work. Do feel free to ask questions at any point, just because otherwise I'll just natter. So, yeah, part of our premise in the way we've been organizing our work is focused on the fact that the internet cannot be put in a box. So you can't solve your cybersecurity challenges by trying to build just perimeters around anything, whether it's your enterprise or your network or your country. So rather focusing on what are good collaborative ways to address cybersecurity challenges, and how can we support that is where we have focused. The key projects, AID and Domain Trust, mentioned briefly before, are really at a phase earlier than where you see MANRS today. MANRS is basically at the point where there is a set of known things to do, and the effort is to encourage more networks to do them. The AID work and the Domain Trust work are at the point of working out what are the things that people can agree that the people who have to pull the levers to do the things can agree to do in order to solve the problem. And I'll be a little bit less vague in coming slides. So phase one in solving cybersecurity challenges for the internet collaboratively, phase one is doing that sort of fact finding and figuring out how can we identify the appropriate actions that the relevant community wants to make. Phase two, the blueprint model that we'll get to, is really where we see MANRS. And it is no word of a lie that we have been structuring our existing projects on the MANRS approach. We even had Andre give a presentation to one of our planning meetings 2 years ago, because really it makes a lot of sense to say, if you want to self-regulate, then you need to understand what industry is willing and able to do. Not what is it that governments will impose, not is it how will industry implement the things that government thinks are a great idea. I gave you GDPR, but rather what is it that industry can do to help solve the problem, and then get governments to say, all right, we will do our part to foster that. So focusing now, internet integrity focused across names, numbers, and routes. One of the key things that we see in the AID database is all of the attacking IP addresses. We are working very hard not to turn that into the world's largest block list, because that's not something that would be an internet with functional integrity. But we are interested in seeing how can we help stop the amount of crap that we see coming out of networks. So as an aside, if you would care to share with us your AS, if you're interested in knowing what we see coming out of your networks, we'll be happy to give you some information. So yeah, so for MANRS, we've already sort of, I'm gonna blow by that one. Inspired by something that Andre had said to me a while ago, we've built out sort of the blueprint for activities. As I said before, from our perspective, getting collaboration amongst and with industry actors for any of these problems is imperative. Once you have an agreed behavior, and in this case, well, I'll just skip to the filled in slide. In this case, mutually agreed norms for routing security. Then the question is, how do you provide a dashboard to industry to say, this is how you are progressing against the agreed behavior? Or in this case, it's, here's the observatory telling you how your network is doing against the MANRS norms themselves. And when you have resources on the other side to help support and foster greater uptake, then you support the whole activity with social engineering, different, whether it's encouragement to other network operators to come play, whether it's, talking to regulators and saying, don't try to put the internet in the box, but rather encourage the uptake of these particular behaviors. That is the kind of support that can help move the whole ball forward. Yeah, so that's basically how we see the world. January 1st, we assume responsibility for the secretariat function and the observatory. Obviously, there's going to be there's a transition period now, and there will continue to be a transition period as we undertake all the things and in fact learn what all the things are. But yeah, we would like to, we're here at this meeting. We would like to meet with you if you've got information you'd like to share with us, thoughts you'd like to share with, questions you'd like to ask us. Very happy to do so. We'll remain interested in hearing from you even after this meeting and into 2024 and beyond, because as Andre said, MANRS is a start, it's not the end. But even so, we want to see what is the community interest in growing this thing and how can we help? And I think that's pretty much all I want to say, unless or until there are questions or thoughts or reflections. I can almost read the question going across your head, Nick. Almost. Okay. All right then.
Yeah, hope you enjoyed lunch and you found this information useful. So we'll continue doing, well, I hope GCA will continue doing community meetings in the future as well. And it's always very nice to see you. And the more we see you in this room, the better, of course. So thank you.